This week on IPTT, we discussed the 2001 horror film 13 Ghosts.
This is I Pierce the Toast. I'm Sean.
And I'm AJ. Let's make some toast.
Welcome back to I Pierce the Toast.
I think you mean IPTT.
I think I mean there has been a death in the Harry Potter family.
Is that the death of our back and forth? Is that the death of our banter? Is that what you're saying?
God, I try to crawl out, you drag me right the fuck back in.
No, yeah, but Sir Michael Gambon actually died today, as we're recording, September 28th.
So he is knighted.
Yeah, he was knighted.
Oh, of course he was. He was an incredible actor. Definitely a big sad loss there. I don't have any. I think the
WGA.
The WGA actually reached an agreement. Apparently, they got most of everything they wanted, so that's awesome.
SAG-AFTRA is
still on strike.
But I think they're doing negotiations right now. I don't know if they're modeling their negotiations after WGA, what they settled for, but I mean, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, AJ, before we get into too much here, I do have a retraction from last week.
Oh, why?
So, I was actually speaking with my father about Saw 10 coming out, and he was like, oh, yeah, I guess they're bringing back Tobin Bell somehow, even though the guy's been dead in the series for, almost over a decade. And I was like, no, Dad, Tobin Bell's not going to be in this one. He goes, no, he is. I was like, what? So I looked it up. He wasn't in Jigsaw. Or not Jigsaw. He wasn't in Spiral, and I think that's where I made my mistake.
Okay.
So he wasn't in Spiral, but he is going to be in Saw 10.
Okay.
And Shawnee Smith is also going to be in Saw 10, which I think is interesting.
What?
So, yeah, I have to assume these are going to be flashbacks.
Well, they better be, unless you're cloning people.
Because we kind of did something similar in Jigsaw, which I believe was the 8th installment, where we saw Tobin Bell in the film. And, he's there, and you kind of get the impression, like, what the fuck? Is he still alive? And then you find out, oh, no, this is actually a scene that happened before his death. And the filmmakers just kind of introduced it in such a way to where the audience might be given the impression that he was still alive, but he wasn't.
Okay.
So I assume we're going to do either a flashback or something similar to that, where it is a flashback, but the audience is kind of kept in the dark in the fact that it's a flashback, giving the impression that somehow he has somehow survived, brain cancer or being shot, I guess is how he died in the series. But just a retraction on that. Tobin Bell will be appearing along with Shawnee Smith in the new Saw 10 film coming out in October.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Yeah. But other than that, AJ, what are we discussing this week?
This week we're actually discussing a movie that is kind of polarized, I guess, if you're a fan or if you're not a fan, which I am a fan. It's 13 Ghosts. It's the 2001 film by director Steve Beck, who actually only did 2 fucking movies.
Interesting. So why is it polarizing?
It's polarizing because while it had a big production and while it had a really good cast, it did not do well at all. And when you see the producers attached to this too, you're like, okay, this should be really great. Even Roger Ebert, whenever he watched this, he's like, the visual effects were great, but he put this on his list of most hated films.
Interesting. How come?
He really didn't like it. It was the dialogue he didn't like. He didn't like anything about this movie besides that.
You know what I'll say right off the bat? I had a hard time being sold on Tony Shalhoub as the father. That was hard for me.
Yeah.
Plus Shannon Elizabeth, opening scene, right? And I know we're already jumping in, and I'm absolutely jumping the gun here. But Shannon Elizabeth in that opening scene with, "Oh, you're my favorite little brother," it was just so
forced.
Fake. It was so forced.
I didn't like the movie because of that. I liked it because of the ghosts.
Same. I thought the kind of the demonic, lore behind the machine and the ghosts, I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons I actually like this too. But as far as the acting, I have to agree. It was pretty phoned in. Except for the ghosts. I think the ghosts did a fantastic job with their acting.
Oh, yeah, they did great. And
unfortunately, didn't have to talk, so that helped. But
unfortunately, in this podcast, I'm not going to go into who played the actual ghosts themselves, because there's just so many of the ghost and the main cast. I think Sean has something to say about one of them.
Just one, because I'm gonna look like such a fucking dirtbag for who I looked up, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So AJ, I take it that means we're only gonna cover the family in terms of the casting.
Well, the family and some of the offshoot.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's say the living. We're only gonna cover the living.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, start us off. What's this movie about?
All right, so this movie is actually about a family that goes through some tragedy at the beginning of the movie, actually kind of off screen, and they inherit a house from a recently deceased uncle by the name of Cyrus. The house is all glass, and then you come to find out that there's some ghosts trapped in the basement, and wacky adventures ensue.
You already told us who directed this, and you said what would you say his name was again?
Steve Beck.
Steve Beck, but Steve only has 2 credits?
2 credits as a director.
This credit and what else?
Ghost Ship.
Well, that would explain why when I watched this on HBO yesterday, the next thing was like, do you want to watch Ghost Ship? I was like, I don't really see how these two are related other than the fact that there happen to be ghosts, but now I get it. Okay, that makes sense.
No, they're actually related in a couple more ways than that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, do you have a fun fact for us already?
I do.
All right.
So Steve Beck is the director. He did Ghost Ship, but he also is known for visual effects for Hunt for Red October, The Abyss, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I don't know if he's just friends of the producer group here, but it kind of seems like it. So the producers are actually some well-known directors and producers themselves. Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's most known as a director from like Back to the Future, Death Becomes Her, and Castaway.
But also a big production.
Yeah, he's a big producer as well.
Yeah.
Joel Silver, who was from the Matrix movies.
Okay, yeah.
V for Vendetta, Romeo Must Die.
Really?
I had to throw it
The
in
fucking
there.
look on your face when you said that. You knew I was going to give you shit about it.
And then you have Gilbert Adler, who did Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood, like the two.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Tales
I
from the Crypt movies.
remember him from the Tales of the Crypt movies.
Superman Returns and Valkyrie. Them together, they have their art. I don't know if it's former now, but they have a production company called Dark Castle Entertainment. They also did.
Oh, yeah. It's that's the one where like it goes and then the lightning freezes and then it says Dark Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting that they all got together and they're all really big name directors. And the director of this movie and Ghost Ship, because they also produced Ghost Ship as well, didn't really do so well. And so they're like really big names, but he kind of falls by the wayside.
You're kind of making this sound a little bit like Killer Clowns as well.
Yeah,
we talked about how the filmmakers, while obviously the film came out kind of fun, and I think we all had a good time with it. They weren't traditional directors. They were puppeteers and special effects gurus. And it sounds like this director, same problem. He's amazing at special effects. You mentioned The Abyss. I mean, dear God, for when that came out, what was that? The late 80s, early 90s.
Like that.
The special effects in The Abyss were completely unmatched.
Exactly.
And I believe that was directed by Titanic. What's his name?
James Cameron.
I think that was one of James Cameron's early ones. We're talking about a person who is incredibly apt at their craft, but just because somebody's a good special effects person doesn't mean they're going to make a good director. And I think we really see that here, because if you can't get a good performance out of Tony fucking Shalhoub, what are you even doing? Because the man is a fucking dynamo.
Oh,
he is an incredible actor.
The only thing I really want to say before we move on is that even though he's known for visual effects, I think he went a little too avant-garde with this, because if you watch the movie, there's a lot of like segmented flashes and like little flashes of light, and it's just like consistent throughout the entire movie. That actually made moviegoers super uncomfortable to the point where it was almost painful to watch the movie. People had seizures.
I can see that, because I was trying to watch this while also getting some other things done around the house. This film was incredibly auditorily assaulting as well. Like, I just felt like I was constantly being yelled at by this film. So I get it. In terms of the flashes, it didn't really bother me, but I definitely picked up on things from this film that were problematic to the senses. So I get it.
So now we're going to move on to the cast. We have actually I'm not going to say super star-studded, but it's pretty star-studded.
I was about to say, you said this is 2001, right?
Yeah.
And when did American Pie come out?
I want to say it was 98, 99?
I was about to say, I think we were right in the midst of Shannon Elizabeth's popularity. So for the time frame this came out, a lot of the three, I would say, primary characters were huge. And even some of the offshoot characters that you alluded to, they were fairly well known as well, and I think even still are.
Oh, yeah.
So I would agree with I would say star-studded is a accurate representation of this film.
Starting right off the bat, we have Tony Shalhoub as Arthur Criticos. He's most well known for playing Monk, Adrian Monk in the series Monk. He was Mr. Minion in Spy Kids, and more recently, at least to the younger generation, he would have been Splinter in the TMNT remake from like 2016, I think it was.
For the comedy/romance fans, he's also the father in
13 Ghosts.
No. He plays the father of the comedic hopeful in The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
If you've been catching up on that on Prime, I think it just had its last season. You'll also recognize him from that.
So next we have Imbeth Davids, who plays Karina Ortizia.
Is that the nanny?
No. That is the like the spiritual kind of dog whisperer kind of person that's trying to like save the ghost.
Oh, the one that comes in the very beginning,
Yeah.
and gives Cyrus shit because he's capturing ghosts and she's all about freeing ghosts.
Yeah.
Got it.
So she's most well known for like Bicentennial Man as Little Miss Amanda or Portia, because she plays a dual role in that movie. She was in Matilda as Miss Honey.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to.
That's what you'll know her
I was
from.
trying to place her face. I was like, why do I know her? Right, she's the teacher that gives some empathy towards Matilda.
She's also in Army of Darkness as Sheila.
She's in Army of Darkness?
She's like the main love interest in
That's her?
Yeah.
Oh, that is her.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Give me sugar, baby.
Give me sugar, Miss Honey. So next up, we have Matthew Lillard as Dennis Rafkin.
I don't think I'm familiar.
No, not at all. See, we were watching this movie, and my fiance Amanda was like, he's actually kind of a scream king because he's been in a slew of different horror movies. I know him from like Serial Mom as the son Chip.
Oh, God, he was.
Yeah, he was in Scream, like the original teen horror film. I mean, not the original teen horror film, but the classic 90s teen horror film as Stu. And then a lot of people will know him as Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a small special shout out on this one. He's also the main character in an indie... I don't know if you call it an indie film. I don't fucking know. But he's the main character in SLC Punk from director James Maradino.
What was that?
SLC Punk? You don't know about this? No. Oh, God. If you haven't seen SLC Punk, I mean, you want to talk about something that represents the punk movement of the 90s and early 2000s so fucking well. James Maradino did an amazing job with this film. It is by far his fucking masterpiece. Oh, it's incredible. So yeah, if you haven't seen SLC Punk, absolutely check it out.
So next up, we have, as we talked about before, Shannon Elizabeth as Kathy Criticos. She was in Scary Movie as Buffy, Jane Silent Bob Strike Back as Justice, but is probably more well known for her role in American Pie.
Why is she more well known for that role, AJ?
When she played Nadia, she plays a foreign exchange student who may or may not have shown her...
Chesticles?
Yes, her chesticles.
May or may not. No, it's May.
Yeah.
It's fucking May.
And then caused the main character to prematurely evacuations of fluids from his... He fucking premature ejaculated. I mean, that's just what happened.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, I think that pretty much solidified Shannon Elizabeth as a sex icon of the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So that was... and I think that was her first film, right? Or at least the first film I remember, and I don't know.
I can't remember if that was her first. I don't think it was her first one, because... So her first role actually is in Jack Frost.
No shit.
Yeah, not the good one.
The horror movie.
The horror movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be.
I had to make that distinction.
I was
really
hoping it was that one.
So next up we have Alec Roberts. He is a young actor. I think this was one of his first roles. He plays Bobby, and
he's the kid.
Yeah, he's the kid. He played in Traffic as David, but then somehow I don't know what the hell happened. He's credited for a character in ER.
Really?
But he's not. There's no way.
Well, I mean, was how many episodes did it say he was on an ER?
Years?
Yeah, from
I think 1990.
Maybe he was like somebody's son or something.
There's no way. The time frame just doesn't add up. I'm like, this is
maybe,
wrong.
Maybe he's Doogie Howser.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that possible?
Next, we have J.R. Bourne as Ben Moss. He's kind of a throwaway character in this, but I have to include him because he is a pretty well-known actor.
Is he the guy that's the
lawyer?
Oh, the lawyer. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he is. Absolutely. But I couldn't tell you for the life of me what he's been in, so hit me. What's he done?
He's mostly known for like his TV roles. I know him from Teen Wolf. He plays one of the main character, not really the main character, but one of the main villains in one of them.
Teen Wolf TV or Teen Wolf 1980s film?
The show.
Got it.
As Chris Argent. He was in Stargate SG-1 as Martouf or Lantash. And then he is in the Mayan MC, which is like the spin-off of Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar.
Yeah.
There's a... Oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I feel like such a piece of garbage, but I follow him on Facebook, and there was this film called like Range 52 or Range 51, something like that. It basically was a lot of these pseudo-celebrity military dudes just getting together to make a film, and it is everything you could possibly hope it would fucking be. It's so raunchy and ridiculous and just nothing but military humor. It's fantastic.
Then we have Ra Digga as Maggie.
Digga?
Yeah, Ra Digga. It's kind of funny. She plays Maggie, who is the nanny, and she was mostly known as a rapper, but then she also had a role in the movie Carmen, a hip opera, which I think is kind of funny, as Rashida. And Carmen, a hip opera, is based on the Italian, I believe it's Italian, opera Carmen.
It was Range 15, by the way. Sorry.
Range 15.
I didn't want to leave our viewers with that because, Range 15, basically just a collab between a bunch of veteran military social media personalities, and it's not a good plot or anything. If you're looking for a really well done film, no. If you're looking for just wall to wall military fucked up humor, mwah, chef's kiss.
Then we're gonna round this off with the main cast. F. Murray Abraham, who plays Cyrus Kritikos. I know him best, and most people will know him best from Amadeus.
Yes,
as playing Salieri.
Yes, absolutely.
He was also in the more recent live-action version of Lady and the Tramp as Tony.
I don't think I saw that one.
I've been
kind of avoiding the live-action Disney films. I gotta be honest. I'm not on board.
But, I mean, he's been in a slew of other things. This was the first... Well, I did not know this. This is the first film from a major American studio with 3 Arab-American leads. Tony Shalhoub, F. Murray Abraham, and Shannon Elizabeth.
Badass.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to quickly roll through the Ghost, and I'm going to say who the actors are. I'm not going to say what they do or the background behind the Ghost yet, but just who played them.
Except one.
Apparently, we're going through one. So we have the firstborn son, who is Mikhail Spiedel. The torso, played by Daniel Wesley. The bound woman, who is Laura Minnelli. The withered lover. Then we have the withered lover, played by Catherine Anderson. The torn prince, by Craig Olenek, I guess is how you would say his name. I'm sorry. The angry princess, who is Sean, a lawyer.
So I was just curious about who this person was.
Mm-hmm. Why were you curious, Sean?
I just thought she played her role very well, AJ.
Okay.
Very well. Anywho, I was curious, so I wanted to look up to see, do I know? Because obviously in this, the makeup is incredibly heavy. You're not going to be able to really recognize anybody in their makeup. Except maybe the guy who plays the guy with all the nails in his fucking face. The hammer, yeah. He looks slightly familiar, but aside from him, I don't think I recognized who any of the ghosts were. And the Angry Princess was probably of the worst of them because she had very heavy face makeup. So I was curious. This is her one and only film.
Yep.
She never appeared in anything else, and I think it said she did this film and then left and became an accountant.
Yeah.
So, in like Canada or some shit, and like nobody's ever heard from her again.
I thought you were actually going to say this, that there was a rumor that circulated that she was actually the porn actress Aria Giovanni.
No, I did not run into that at all. I guess I just looked her up on IMDb, so, and aside from, just speculation of what happened to her or where she is now, or discussing that this is her only credit and that nobody ever really hears from her, like she's not going to horror cons or anything like that. I think that was kind of the more interesting facet that IMDb focused on in terms of talking about who she was and is. So I guess it didn't really mention that. I was not aware of that.
Well, what's actually kind of funny about this is that Aria Giovanni, the actual porn actress, did star in a parody of this film called 13 Erotic Ghosts.
I was about to say, was it a porn parody?
Yeah, it was.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
And people just attribute things, but...
Outstanding.
So moving on from the other ghosts, you have the Pilgrimess, played by Xantha Radley, the Great Child, played by C. Ernst Harth. And I will just talk about him for a second, because he does play a lot of character roles, and he actually was in the Scooby-Doo movies as well.
Oh, okay.
He was Minor 49er.
Oh, all right, sure, yeah.
The Dire Mother, played by Laurie Soper. The Hammer, played by Herbert Duncanson. The Jackal, played by Shane Weiler, who gave me the fucking heebie-jeebies when I was a kid. And the Juggernaut, played by John D. DeSantis. What's kind of crazy to me as well is that there's a lot of lore behind the ghost, and there's all this like really intense action and all of that, but the screenwriting actually wasn't that good for the dialogue. But do you know who had an uncredited screenwriter role for this?
Who's that?
James Gunn.
Really? Like DC James Gunn?
Yeah, well, DC now, but he was Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel James Gunn.
Oh, right, yes.
Another thing before I roll into the actual plot, I did not know that this is actually a remake.
Oh, 13 Ghosts? Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that. It was a remake of the 1960 movie, and it's kind of cool how they did this, because in the movie, the characters need special glasses to see the ghost, but in the original one, viewers needed special glasses to see the ghost as well. So they're like, hey, let's bring this back into the movie.
So I was aware of the original, but I've never seen it. Is it pretty much the same plot, or?
So it is different, but it's also very, very similar. I haven't actually seen it yet. I really do want to watch it, but I just like, do I really want to watch this movie right now after watching this masterpiece?
Masterpiece. I got your fucking masterpiece. Take me through the plot of this masterpiece, AJ.
You say it like that, but they're actually going to make another series off of this.
I thought they already started it.
They haven't put it out though.
Oh, is it? Okay, so it is finished. It's post-production. They just haven't released.
Yep.
Okay, because I did see it come up when I was looking for this, so I just assumed that it was already out.
No, not out yet, but they will be coming out, and you bet your sweet bippy I'm gonna watch it.
Okay, we're not gonna let that go by. Sweet bippy?
Yeah.
My sweet bip. What part of me is the bippy?
Don't worry about it.
Tell me about the fucking plot of 13 Ghosts, AJ.
All right, let's set the stage.
Set the stage.
The movie opens up in a junkyard where we are introduced to an apparent psychic, Dennis, who is being goaded by an older man, Cyrus, into telling him where a ghost by the name of the Breaker, also known as the Juggernaut, is. But then Dennis places his hand on the ground and has what appears to be a very painful vision. In addition to the location of the ghost, he sees that not only has this ghost killed 9 people, but there's 40 victims still there. And Cyrus quickly tells him, hey, this happened after his death. So he's just added to that collection after he died.
Well, isn't he just a busy little bee?
Oh, yeah, he's a busy little bee. So Dennis advises Cyrus to turn back, but Cyrus refuses and tells his crew, dressed in tinfoil for some reason, I didn't actually get that, to bring in the cube. The cube, what we find out, is a clear box with writing on all sides that we quickly find out is used to catch ghosts. And I actually found out later, when I was doing some research on this, that the writing on the cubes and in the house, because you guys will find out later on, that the house that they actually venture to has writing on it as well. And it all kind of transcribes to the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, is that all it is?
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't know about you, but as soon as I saw the cube, and I didn't think this the first time I saw it, I thought this on this viewing, my first thought was, so like the Ghostbusters Ghost Trap. That's what this is.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's just right side up.
It's see-through now, though.
And based on that, I came up with a tagline for this film. Let me know what you think. Ghostbusters, but make it completely fucked up.
Who you gonna call? Not the fucking Ghostbusters.
Don't call this guy.
One.
No,
not for this one.
He's gonna make a collection and then do some fucky.
Some fucky. So we get a further look into Dennis's abilities when he touches Cyrus, and he gets a flash of visions of a weird house with some creepy looking machinations, and Cyrus tells him, be careful what you're looking at, basically telling him don't touch me because you don't want to find out too much. After a brief run-in with Kalina and a man named Damon, who seemed to be like the PETA for ghosts.
That is a really good way to describe that.
That's just what it kind of seems
that's
like.
What they are. They show up like, how you can't keep these people. These are people. How dare you? They're very much like they're Gita.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're Pega. People for the ethical. No, Pedig. There we go.
Yeah, Pedig.
People for the ethical treatment. Oh no, they're PETA. People for the ethical treatment of apparitions.
Oh, look at Sean.
Boom, got it.
After a brief back and forth with Cyrus, Damon actually tells Cyrus he'll never pull it off without the right spells and the 13th ghost. Now, Dennis kind of freaks out about this because he only apparently signed up to catch 12 ghosts, but Cyrus kind of shoos him off and is like, oh no, there's going to be one more ghost. Now, he has his crew start playing a recording of a man reciting some type of spell that lures ghosts, but it also seems to piss them off, like into the cube. And this is where we find out that there are special glasses that can be used to see ghosts. He sees the ghost travel along, because he's in this junkyard and there's just piles of cars everywhere. He just sees this juggernaut go fucking ballistic. And he smashes all these people, like, into cars. He, like, pulls one of them into a trunk at some point. And Dennis just happens to look on and watches this.
I mean, kind of burying the lead there. He doesn't just pull him into the trunk. He folds the son of a bitch in half.
Does.
Like, holy shit.
And he just massacres pretty much the entire team. Now, one of Cyrus's men does run into the cube, and the Juggernaut follows him in. Then you're just kind of trapped with a mad dog at that point, because the Juggernaut just basically beats this guy to a pulp. Dennis tries to help, like, by banging on the glass, but that doesn't really do anything.
Well, it's like he was trying to, like, talk down a bad dog.
Yeah.
He's sitting there like, hey, like,
hey, stop.
This is a very angry apparition. I don't think that thing is going to be like, oh, no. Okay, let me sit and get a treat for this and get fucked.
Like, what the fuck are you going to do? It's a ghost. Now, Dennis hears Kalina screaming for help, and then he rushes to find that Damon has had his throat cut. And then he looks over and he sees Cyrus with a long sheet of metal just kind of sticking through his neck, clearly dead. Now we get kind of a brief flashback, and it's not really a flashback because you don't really see too much. You see, like, these kids playing outside, but then the screen kind of pans over across some pictures, and the house kind of morphs into kind of a raggedy, like, house almost. But you see that through mostly through audio cues that a woman named Jean has died and that a fire destroyed her house. Her family, Arthur, Kathy, and Bobby, are left to pick up the pieces, and they're not doing very well. Arthur is just like, I think he's a math teacher, so he really can't afford to give them the same light that they had when there was like a dual income in the household. Over breakfast, they are joined by Maggie, the nanny. I don't understand how he can afford to hire a nanny.
Yeah, I kind of question that too, because there's some banter here, or not some banter, but some dialogue suggesting they can't afford a bigger place.
Yeah.
Because Shannon Elizabeth's character alludes that a bigger place is needed,
and they don't have a bathroom.
He's like, well, I'm doing the best we can. This is what we can afford right now. It's like, but you can afford a full-time nanny who literally goes everywhere with you, like a live-in fucking au pair. Really, you can afford that?
An au pair.
An au pair.
It's kind of crazy to me that and I thought this was funny as someone that has a podcast, that the youngest one, Bobby, is obsessed with death, and he's recording this show, which seems to be like an early version of a podcast, like an old show. It's just funny to hear
it's
him.
just like on a tape recorder.
Yeah, it's just
not like anybody's
show.
sharing his show or anything. But yeah, it's fucking adorable.
It's just fucking hilarious. Now, Arthur trips over his skateboard while he's kind of doing his morning stuff, and we get a brief glimpse on how on the edge he is, just trying to keep everyone together whenever he lashes out at Bobby. Now, while he's lashing out at Bobby, and he's kind of giving the family like a talk where he's like, guys, just keep your shit off the floor, like, I'm trying to keep this together. There's a knock at the door, and a man by the name of Ben Moss introduces himself as the lawyer of Arthur's late Uncle Cyrus. And it's funny because there's like an interaction where Bobby's like, what is he late for? And they're like, no, and he means deceased. He's like,
oh, I literally wrote that down.
Did you?
I literally wrote down, you have a late uncle. What is he late for? His next birthday. I thought, like,
you mean he's dead?
I was like, okay, the dialogue in this film is not good by any stretch of the imagination, but this fucking joke, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna forgive all other dialogue transgressions for this fucking joke, because it's actually pretty good, and Elizabeth actually lands it pretty well. I gotta say.
Does. Now, Arthur says he never knew his uncle when he's asked why they've never heard about him, and he says that all he really knows is that he squandered the family fortune. And then Shannon Elizabeth's character, Kathy, was like, oh, we have a family fortune? He's like, no, he squandered it.
No, he squandered it. Like, some matter-of-factly.
Now, Ben tells the family that Cyrus has died. They will be inheriting his state-of-the-art house, which is basically like his life's work, effectively changing their financial situation instantly. Now, they all travel to the house.
Oh, hold on. So the way he delivers this information is the video that Cyrus made.
Yeah.
And I just have to note how glorious those 1999 graphics were.
Oh my god.
Oh dear god.
It's like watching one of those like videos from a 90s game.
Exactly.
I don't know if you ever played like a computer game.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
It
actually reminded me a lot of the video from Hackers where the guy gives the kid a laptop and there's a message from him on it. And it's just really like all these stupid little things are popping up as if that was even possible back then. Because if you had a video doing that, it was going to eat up so much of your fucking memory. The damn thing would crash.
The thing that got me about the video is that I don't know if they were just a sequence of videos that were playing, because a video would open, then it would close, then it would open. Then
Right?
It would close.
Yeah, it was just all these boxes and shit. Like, we couldn't do that with computers back then.
Did you run a command line? Is this what's going on?
Do you have a virus?
No, Cyrus the Virus.
Cyrus the Virus.
That's a different movie.
We'll discuss Con Air someday.
Now they all travel to the house, and they're shown that it's made of glass with some eerily similar writing to the cube on the outside. The lights are all off for some reason, and a disguised Dennis who's posing as an electrician tells him that he needs to investigate because apparently the house has knocked out all the power in the surrounding area. I think he says there's like 5,000 houses or something like that without power.
I mean, obviously he's lying, but
yeah, of course. Upon inserting the key, the lights all turn off, and throughout the house, gears start whirring and walls start moving. And the Criticos are ecstatic about the house. And due to the expensive decorations and overall beauty of the house, Arthur tells them don't touch anything. Now, what's cool to me, and I did not catch this at all, there's an Easter egg. The Highlander sword is actually in Cyrus's collection in the house.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's
I think
kind
that's
of
actually
funny,
pretty cool.
Obviously, Cyrus's obsession with this has something to do with probably wanting some semblance of immortality. So it's kind of funny that the Highlander sword is there.
Oh yeah,
that's a cute. That's cute. I dig it.
And looking around the house, there's a collection of swords, there's trinkets, there's different like writing and maps, and the house is completely see-through. But it is a really beautiful house. Aside from the ghost, I would love to live there.
No.
Why?
The whole fucking thing was see-through.
So people can see my pee-pee?
That's exactly what's going to happen. Everybody's going to see your pee-pee.
I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, though. Who's really going to be seeing that?
I mean...
the squirrels?
Squirrel. Shut up.
While looking around, Dennis notices the writing on the wall. Funny.
Heyo.
Because he's starting to put together this house is not just a house. Now, Dennis asks Ben to show him to the basement so he can take a look and then get out. And Ben dismissively tells him, exactly where it is before telling Arthur that he needs to sign the final papers. Arthur tells the kids and Maggie not to move while he signs them, mostly, like I said, due to him not wanting them to break anything. As kids do, they all kind of separate as soon as he leaves the room. Now, Dennis is shown to be looking for money that Cyrus owed him in the basement, and while he's there, he notices that things are really off before he starts getting horrific visions. And during this time, Ben is explaining to Arthur that the family will never need to worry about money again. Arthur's telling him, we don't have a lot of money, the property taxes alone must be crazy, but he's like, no, Cyrus was a genius when it came to money. As they previously stated, he kind of squandered the family fortune, so this is a weird thing where it's like, did he really know how to spend his money? Was he really a genius with money, or did he just waste it all on this house? Back in the basement, Dennis puts on the glasses and he's shown that all the ghosts he's been catching with Cyrus are all caged in the basement. So Dennis quickly runs upstairs and he tells Arthur his real identity. He says that he used to work with Cyrus and that they used to catch ghosts together. And Ben actually recognizes Dennis as soon as Dennis tells him who he is, and then he laughs him off and paints him as a nut, so he kind of discredits him in front of Arthur. Now, while this is going on, we see that the rest of the family is exploring the house, and Ben ends up leaving somewhere in the conversation. They don't really explain. He's basically just saying that his business is done and that he needs to go retrieve something. So he goes.
It was kind of abrupt, leaving, wasn't he? He was just like, I'm going to leave.
Hey, okay.
Where the fuck you going, man?
Arthur and Dennis are sitting there arguing or talking or whatever. And Ben's just whatever. So Ben goes to the basement to retrieve a suitcase full of money. And to me, the money looked super fake. I don't know if you remember seeing that. It was very...
So, I think there's a reason why it looked fake to us now, is because it's 1990s money.
Ah, that's true.
I was thinking of that when I saw it. I saw that money and I was like, oh, I wonder if AJ is going to talk about this on the show. The fact that now our money looks so extremely different because we have the big, face, and it's kind of off to the side now, and the numbers have been made much bigger and larger, and the money looks much more, even though it's still paper-esque, our money looks much closer to other countries like Australia
Yeah.
or England's money. But back then it didn't. It was very, very small numbers in the corners, very tight. Everything was very 1800s looking. And the picture in the middle was very small.
Yeah,
it was very petite.
Very just odd to me.
Yeah,
so I was looking at that. I was going,
so looking at it
really
now,
bad.
it's like, what kind of fucking play money bullshit is this?
This Monopoly money. As he's getting this suitcase full of money, he accidentally releases the first ghost because there's a trigger that was set for him whenever he picks up the suitcase, where it just activates the sequence, where it does release the first ghost, the angry princess.
Ooh, the angry princess.
Yeah.
And didn't he say something to her on the way in there too? To not,
He's like
piss
nice
her
tits
off?
or something like
Yes.
that.
He's been a dick.
Yeah. And then as soon as she gets released and he sees her, he's like,
I was joking, right?
I was joking, right?
As if he's gonna be able to fucking negotiate with the ghost.
Right?
Typical lawyer behavior.
Now, this is what I do have to say about Dark Castle deaths in movies, especially this and Ghost Ship. There is some crazy stuff that happens that physically and scientifically could never actually happen. Like in Ghost Ship, one of the things is like when that cord or that line...
The opening scene, yeah.
Yeah, that apparently that would never be able to happen. It would never be that clean, and it wouldn't cut everybody in half like it did. People wouldn't be able to sit there and be like...
I think I actually read something about that. Like, it probably could have cut somebody in half, but it would have probably gotten stuck on like somebody's spinal cord at some point,
it wouldn't have gone through everybody.
It wouldn't have gone through everybody. Several people would have gotten injured, but it wouldn't have just been like the entire fucking ship taken out with one swoop. It's not a samurai sword.
Exactly. And the reason that I mention this is because Ben is killed when this happens. Like, he steps backwards and these doors close, like bisecting him. And when I say bisecting him, I mean his front half and his back half, like his butt half and his pee-pee half are two separate halves. So the peen half just kind of slides down the front, and he's looking around and his eyes are moving, and you can see that he's like trying to figure out what's going on. That couldn't happen. That would probably be an instant death, I would believe.
Sure would. He'd just be... I mean, they do talk... Well, okay, and you may very well be right, but they do talk about how during... the French Revolution, and when they were using the guillotine a lot.
Yeah.
That after heads were lopped off, that there was like a good 8-second period afterwards where the heads still seemed to be conscious and could even potentially speak.
Yeah, it's because the movement was so abrupt that your body hasn't recognized that it doesn't have a head anymore, and so your brain is still firing.
Man, we went on a dark path here.
Yeah.
Get back to 13 Ghosts. Jesus Christ.
But in this, there's no fucking way. If you watch it, he slides down, and he's sliding for a good 30 seconds, and he's just looking around like...
What's happened, Martha?
So the peen half is what I'm talking about. Is the one that's the one that's sliding down the front, and the back half is still sitting there.
I gotta ask, do you have it written in your notes as peen half? Or
No.
did you just... Was that off the spot?
No, it's honestly because my fiance keeps talking about my peen, and it just keeps happening.
I'm gonna have to talk to your fiance about her peen obsession.
That's just kind of the end of Ben. We really don't... We see him in a pile later, but no one ever mentions him ever again.
What's odd, though, too, is we never get to see a Ben ghost.
Yeah, there's never a Ben ghost.
Never a Ben ghost, which is odd, because it's like,
You see a ghost of someone else.
There's ghosts of others that we're going to find out that within the story, but yeah, we never get to see a Ben ghost. It's just the end of Ben. I guess since Ben got his money, all of his earthly business was concluded. But isn't the whole point of that...
Are you using fucking Casper logic right now?
No, well, I mean, there is some of that, right? Like, there's things that are
unfinished business.
There are things that are tying these ghosts to their earthly bounds, while other ghosts don't do that. And we're going to find out at the end a very specific example of that.
They were saying violent deaths, though. I would attribute this as being a violent death.
Possibly. But I would also argue that within that house, even if you had all of your business finished and you didn't have a violent death, could you even leave with all the fucking spell work on the fucking...
The writing on the wall?
Hey-o!
Back to what's going on with the family. So Kathy is enjoying her life in her new room, because she was the one that was mentioning earlier that they only share one bathroom and all of that whenever they were living at the other place. Now she's got her own room. It's got its own bathroom. But because the princess was released, they kind of exist in the same space, but in different realms, it almost seems. It's kind of weird, because when the princess is shown, there's a lot of blood. It's like basically her death scene.
Right, because she died in like a bathtub, right?
Yeah, she died in a bathtub, and there was like, I'm sorry, and we'll talk about some of the lore later, but it seems as whenever the ghosts are shown, you get a little bit of what happened to them, because the princess, there's blood all over the place. Like, there's even a scene, and it's the grossest thing ever, where Kathy's like reaching into the bathtub, which for some reason has been filled, and the princess is laying in there, and the princess is shown to be laying in a tub of blood, but Kathy like reaches down into the blood and splashes the water on her face, but when it flashes to her, it's regular water, but the princess is kind of just sitting there looking at her. It's very odd, and I think that was a really great visual aspect of this, and like the production crew did a really great job with that, like depicting, this is the ghost, this is the person, they exist together, but you can only see this if you're wearing the glasses.
Interesting.
Which, fun fact about the glasses, did you notice that Dennis wears glasses in the movie?
Like, he actually wears glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how often do you see him with the glasses on that aren't like the ghost glasses?
I think like the very beginning is the only time.
Yeah. Do you ever see him squinting?
No.
No. That's the thing. He never squints the entire time, so it's like, why the fuck are you wearing glasses?
I mean, this was what, 1998 when this came out?
2001.
2001. So maybe this was like that, like whole, like maybe he was like one of the original hipsters. You know, he's wearing the glasses that don't actually have any like prescription property to them.
I think you're full of shit.
I think I am too, but I'm you know, at least I'm speculating. Damn it! What are you bringing to the fucking proceedings?
My witty personality
and your peen, apparently.
And my peen. So while this is going on, and she's like splashing the water on her face, the ghost goes to stab her, but then Arthur rushes in and he's like, hey, we need to go. And then they need to find Bobby. Now, Bobby is shown to just be wheeling around the house on his Razor scooter. I don't think it was actually Razor branded, but it's a scooter, and it's a Razor scooter.
Yeah.
If you're not from the 90s, you really wouldn't know that, but just imagine a fun time with brightly colored scooters that everyone just kind of pedaling around on. That's what we had.
That was all the 90s was.
That was all the 90s. Everyone had one. Your mom had one. Your grandma had one.
Bill Clinton had one.
Your great grandma probably tripped and broke her hip on it.
Bill Clinton used it improperly, but he had one.
Yeah, but you know, he did not have sexual relations with that scooter.
That's right, he did not. That's the official record. AJ?
Now, as Bobby is kind of going around, there is another lever that's pulled, and there's a second ghost, their firstborn son, that's released. You hear these voices that say, Bobby, come to the basement. Bobby. And then you hear another voice kind of in the background that's saying, Bobby, no, stay out of the basement. But the louder voice is the voice of the firstborn son telling Bobby to come to the basement.
Are we getting the impression that Bobby cannot hear any of this?
No, he can totally hear them. That's why he went to the basement.
See, that was weird for me, because, like, you know, you had this other voice that kept saying, Bobby, don't go to the basement. And it's like, he doesn't really seem to be responding to any of it. Like the ghosts are just kind of speaking into the fucking ether, because we have no impression. Like, we know you put the glasses on, you can see the ghosts. We know Dennis can see ghosts. We know that there is a avenue for seeing ghosts, either through having glasses or potentially with psychic ability. But I don't think there was any discussion of the ability to hear the fucking ghost. So I am not 100% convinced. Like, I think maybe he just went down there because of childhood curiosity. I am not convinced he heard shit.
No, there is a scene where, remember, there's an exchange between him and his mom. She tells him to put on the glasses, and he listens to her and puts the glasses on.
Does he?
Yeah.
I guess I must forgot that scene. But yeah,
well,
okay.
I also wonder, too, if the reason he can hear them is because it's playing through his tape recorder as well.
Maybe.
Or I don't know if you remember that portion of it.
It could also be one of those things where, even unspoken, they're kind of suggesting, like, you know, childhood innocence. You haven't been corrupted by adulthood yet, so you still have the ability to potentially convene with the other world. You know, lots of people make that suggestion. And then, of course, there's also Kraken.
I'm thinking more along the lines of it's probably going through his voice recorder now that I'm thinking about it, because audio phenomenon is
EVP.
Yeah, EVP is a big thing in the paranormal field, and I think that's probably what they were going for.
That makes sense.
And it makes sense because he's the character
I'll buy that. I'll buy that for $1.
I'll buy that I got you $1. That's neither here nor there, though. He just gets lured to the basement, and he's wearing the glasses. I don't know why. He just thinks they're cool. and he starts seeing more ghosts. He sees the bound woman and another ghost called the Torso, which is actually pretty interesting to me that the person that played the Torso was actually an amputee, and they just put like a black bag on their head and filtered out the head.
Oh, so the person literally didn't have legs or arms?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
Holy
pretty
shit.
crazy, right?
That is, yeah. I assumed it was just
Well, he had he had arms. He just didn't have legs.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Then he does the classic movie trope where he runs into a wall and then is just knocked unconscious. I don't know why this just happens, but it happens. In another part of the house, while looking for Bobby, Dennis explains that the writing on the walls are containment spells for the ghost, and that they have to do exactly what the spells say. Kind of like an instruction guide, like if the ghosts see this, they have to go here. Dennis basically tells them like this is what's going on, and then they say that they're going to go to the basement. And then Dennis gets upset.
What are you doing? What did I just say? Did I just say there's a petting zoo downstairs? No, there are ghosts downstairs, Arthur.
But then Arthur is the voice of reason, and he's like, no, but we need to go find Bobby so we can leave. And then they proceed to go to the basement where all the fucking ghosts are. Now, Bobby wakes up, and over the voice recorder, Bobby hears a voice telling him to go back upstairs. He puts back on the glasses, and he sees his mom, the withered lover, goading him to go back upstairs. Then he turns around, and he's about to leave the basement, but then he runs into a dead Cyrus and screams. Back down in the basement, the rest of the group gets there, and then they do another classic movie trope where they split up to go look for Bobby.
Oh yeah, I was fucking screaming at the TV when this happened. I was like, I get that this is the fucking like 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, but god damn it, like let's split up. And literally even Matthew Lillard's character was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And that's another movie trope. The one guy who's actually making some fucking sense who goes, you know what, let's not do the stupid fucking thing that always gets everybody killed.
See, I love in Scary Movie 2 where Brenda's like, hold up! Every time some scary shit want to go on, y'all want to split up. That's what I always think when I hear this. Dennis and Maggie take one area, and Arthur and Kathy take another. And Dennis and Maggie run into another trap ghost, the Hammer. And the Hammer, by far to me, looks like the baddest motherfucker I've ever seen.
Right?
They keep talking
about the Jackal being the scariest. Like, no, the fucking Hammer scared the fuck out of me.
He didn't scare me. He was
got
just
nails
cool.
in his goddamn head.
And the lore behind all of these ghosts, whenever you find out what's actually going on with them, is so cool. But the Hammer is this really bulky ghost, nails all over him.
And we should preface that we're not talking like fucking like deck nails.
No, they're like railroad nails.
Railroad nails, yeah.
Now, while the ghost is trapped, Dennis is explaining to them, ghosts around them all the time, and most can't or don't want to hurt them, but there are exceptions. The people that have died violent deaths are ones that want to cause harm to humans. He's talking to the Hammer, and he pounds on the glass at one point. I forget exactly what he says, but then he gets a glimpse of his own death, which I think is kind of shitty. And he takes a step back, and he's like, oh my god. He and Maggie find the open cage of the Jackal.
It was the Charlie Manson ghost. And if the Jackal's out, screw the kid. We gotta get out of this basement.
Which kind of makes sense to me that he said that, because the Jackal scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. It's basically this entity that has a cage around his head. And I think it's the only ghost that gets a second moniker as well, because they say the sign of Hell's Winter, the Jackal. I'm like, that's a fucking awesome moniker.
Do we ever find out why the fucking thing has a cage on its head as a ghost?
You never find out in the movie, but you find out in the lore.
Okay. And do we also know why Dennis is so close with Charles Manson that he's calling him Charlie?
I don't know. I think it's just a thing.
I just thought that was odd. Like, I didn't realize you guys were such good friends.
I think it's music.
Like,
he's really liked his music, probably.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That old chestnut.
that old banger.
Now, Arthur and Kathy are walking around, and Arthur's really telling Kathy he doesn't believe in ghosts. Right before the Jackal starts showing up and starts ripping the clothes right off of Kathy, which I felt in this scene was a tad unnecessary. They really just seemed like they really wanted to get Shannon Elizabeth exposed.
I kind of got that impression too.
Yeah.
It was like, you could have just shown the skin being shredded, but they really wanted to open her shirt.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was like
100%.
It was like, okay, I get it. You casted Shannon Elizabeth. This is obviously what you're going for. I literally thought the exact same thing. I was like, this is unnecessary.
Yeah, this is really unnecessary.
Okay, sure.
So the Jackal, as he's ripping her clothes off and he's just dragging her down the hall, he basically picks her up and she's in the air getting all this stuff ripped off of her. And then you see this flare come shooting down the hallway, and you see that Kalina has showed up. You don't really know how the fuck she really got in there, but she's saying she slipped in through when the house shifted. But why the fuck was she really there? We'll find out later.
Yeah, this bitch.
Yeah, this bitch.
This bitch.
She's the one that actually threw the flare at the jackal. It's like a Quicksilver flare. I don't know exactly what's in it, but I guess that's a way to ward off the ghosts. And she explains that she's in the ghost reclamation business, as we've discussed. Ghost PETA.
Right.
And she intends to set all the ghosts free. Dennis and Maggie end up behind enemy lines. I don't know how the hell this happens, because I guess it's because there's one big labyrinth in the basement, but it didn't seem like the basement was that big. But I guess with all the glass and everything like that,
we also know that everything was shifting, like all the
that's
the doors
true.
and everything were shifting, and that's kind of how I just suspended all disbelief of them getting separated, them not being consistently finding themselves, an inability to communicate. I just kind of chalked it up to the house is constantly shifting. The only question I had about the house shifting was, what is the whole purpose of that? I understood that the house shifting on the outside to basically close it in made sense, but what was and the house shifting to allow the ghost to escape, right? But was it just shifting
else?
Yeah, was it just shifting? And because what we're going to find out in the end on how the ghosts get to their staging area, we'll call it, there just didn't seem to be any need for all this shifting, because you could argue, well, it's shifting to like lead the ghost to a certain place or something, right? But that the thing at the end is really going to show us that wasn't necessary.
I wonder if it has to do with like a configuration thing within the spell that we'll talk about it later. But there's like a way that this house has to be set up, and I think that might have to do with it.
Okay, all right, I'll buy that. All right,
I'll buy that for $1.
I'm spending a lot of dollars.
Yeah, you are. Now, as I said, Dennis and Maggie end up behind enemy lines next to the firstborn son and the princess. And Dennis at this time is the only one wearing the glasses, and Maggie can't see her. So at one point, he's like, "You need to go this way. Like, you need to go this way right now," because the angry princess is behind Maggie, and she's about to stab her. She does move out of the way in the nick of time, but she's about to become the next little victim. Kalina, Arthur, and Kathy are in another area of the house. It's still in the basement, but she's showing them a book called the Arcanum, where this is kind of explaining the entire house, where it's written by a man called Basilius, who was possessed, and it's a blueprint for the machine designed by the devil and powered by ghosts. So it's pretty cool how she explained it. She's like, it's a machine designed by the devil and powered by the damned, I think is exactly how she said it. And she is baffled that Cyrus got it built. She's like, I can't believe you actually built this. Now, actually, she's explaining all of this to Arthur and Kathy. Dennis and Maggie are, again, separated from each other when the house shifts again. And then Dennis is getting his ass kicked by another ghost called the Torn Prince. I don't really know why they really wanted to go all in on the Torn Prince, because he seemed like one of the most well done ghosts, I can say. He's the one that had the baseball bat.
Yeah, he's the one.
He was shown.
He looks like a
lot.
greaser from the 50s.
Yeah. I don't know why he was I would have thought that to scare people a little bit more, they probably would have chose the jackal. Maybe it's just to get more screen time for this ghost. I don't really know, because the Torn Prince to me was never a ghost I was scared by.
No, because he was very pedestrian, for lack of a better word. He literally looked like a kid from the 1950s that got ran over by a car. Yeah, like he honestly, he kind of reminded me of James Dean. That's what, like, James Dean.
I think that's what he was trying to go by.
James Dean gets in a car accident, and this is the result. A ghost that's all shredded to shit. Yeah.
I guess I just really had a hard time with some of these ghosts being scary at all, because I think it's really just so they can have some action in the scene, because he is beating Dennis up. He's kicking his ass, and he's hitting the walls, and there's sparks flying and all that. But other than that, you don't really see a lot of this ghost. He really doesn't make a comeback.
No. And there are a few ghosts that we don't see a lot of. Like
the bound woman and
the mother of the son. And then, of course, obviously the torso. Because it's like, the torso is not going to be able to do a whole lot in terms of hurting people.
I think the bound woman and the torso, you only see them once, besides at the very end. And whenever Kalina's explaining all of these ghosts later on, you get a glimpse of the fact that, like, I guess what they did is they shot one scene for them, and then they just flashed it back later. But the jackal, the Torn Prince, all of them, they all get their own scenes. It's just very odd to me that there's some ghosts that don't get that much screen time. Now, somewhere in this, he ends up being able to escape because the house shifts again. And then Kathy ends up missing. I'm not exactly sure when this happens. I tried to go back and play. I'm like, where the fuck did she go?
There's a lot of continuity. I'm not going to call them errors because it may have been very purposeful, but I feel like there's some editing continuity problems here where I feel like there was a lot of times where I felt like we were missing some sort of important context of how we got from one place to another.
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Which it kind of makes sense because they're just trying to get the thing going.
And because this is 2001, they were probably trying to keep this down to an hour and a half. I get it.
Now, like I said, somewhere in there, Kathy ends up missing, but then Dennis and Maggie are running away, and they run into the Great Child and the Dire Mother, which is basically this giant man of a ghost and a very short woman, before meeting up with the rest of the group. Now, the Jackal and the Pilgrimess show up. We haven't talked about the Pilgrimess yet, but she's basically this ghost that's in this, I forget what they're called, their hands and heads sticking out, like a stockade.
Stockade. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, it's basically this stockade that she's in, and she's just running out, trying to attack them, but she doesn't really attack them. It's very odd. I don't know how she thought she was going to do anything while being all locked up, but who knows?
She was going to beat him with her stockade.
As they get away, everyone's kind of coming together, and Kalina and Dennis argue because she knows that Dennis was the one that helped Cyrus get all these ghosts there. And she says that he's a son of a bitch because he is the reason that they are all there. And he's the reason for all of us, including the fact that the withered lover that's trapped in the basement, because Arthur has not seen the withered lover yet. She is talking to everyone about the ghost, and she's explaining who all of them are.
Oh, that's right. By this point, Arthur doesn't know that
Arthur doesn't
the
know.
lover is his wife.
Yeah, so she's telling him, she's like, you haven't told him about the fourth ghost. And Dennis looks over at Kalina. He's like, please don't do this. You find out that Dennis actually helped capture the fourth ghost, who is Jean. Arthur kicks the shit out of Dennis, asking him why he did it. And he's like, in case you haven't known, I'm kind of a freak. He explains all these things and like how Cyrus actually seemed to be a friend to him. And then Kalina laughs and says, he was never your friend, he was just using you. And then Kalina explains the story about all the ghosts. She goes in line and says that all of these ghosts are needed to power the machine. I'm going to go through the ghosts one more time for you. There's the firstborn son, and I'm quickly going to tell you their stories. I'm not going to go fully into it. You guys can research it later, but their stories are pretty cool.
Hit me.
You have the firstborn son, who was a young boy named Billy Michaels, who loved pretending to be a cowboy. But then one day he gets challenged by another kid, and one kid had a bow and arrow, a real bow and arrow, and Billy just had his cap gun, and Billy lost that fight with the arrow sticking straight to his head.
Yeah, real bow and arrow usually win against cap gun. Yeah.
Yep. And then the torso is the next ghost. He was Jimmy the Gambler Gambino. He was a gambler that fucked up and ended up owing the mafia, and then the mafia cut him into pieces and wrapped him in cellophane. And then you have the bound woman, Susan LeGros, who was the richest girl in town. She was very popular, but then she basically cheated on somebody she was with, and the guy that she was with killed her. And bound her up and all of this nonsense. Then you have the withered lover, who is Jean, who we all found out in the beginning died in the.
Was all this in the movie?
Well, you don't find the stories. You just find the ghosts themselves. This is all lore that you can find in the DVD copy of the movie, though.
Oh, okay. This is all in the okay. So
you get kind of
because I know they talked about the ghosts, but I don't remember them ever going into detail about who each of the ghosts were.
No, they're all vignettes about the ghosts, and it's really cool.
No, please keep going. This is awesome. I didn't know any of this, so this is really fascinating.
Then you have Jean Criticos, like I said, who is the fourth ghost, and I don't know if Cyrus was responsible for the fire.
I think they insinuate that.
I can't remember
that he set that in motion, whether explicitly by burning the house down or by some other mechanism, for the express purpose of getting Jean to be the withered lover and his nephew to be what he's the role he's going to play in this.
Now, the first four ghosts that I mentioned the first three ghosts I mentioned aren't necessarily benevolent, and they haven't really wanted to kill anybody from what it seems.
They're more benign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the withered lover is the only benevolent ghost. She does not want to kill anyone because obviously she's Jean.
Right.
She's the wife of Arthur. But these next ghosts are some bad motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the Torn Prince, Royce Clayton, who was a gifted and famous teenage baseball player in the 1950s. And he caught the eye of some colleges, but he also had a penchant for drag racing. And then someone else cut
he's literally fucking James Dean.
Yeah.
That's literally what they decided to do. He died in a car accident.
Yeah, he died. Well, he died in a car accident because someone cut his brake lines. And he still carries his baseball bat because I guess that's just something that happens.
Because that's how Ghost World works. If you were a baseball player, you get to die with a baseball bat. So I'm going to take up hockey.
the Mighty Duck ghost. So then we have the Angry Princess, who, this is an interesting one to me because it's a ghost from the late 20th century. Her story is that she was a beautiful woman, but she had her own flaws, and she was addicted to plastic surgery. So she had a bunch of different surgeries, and they basically were botched, and one of them mutilated her eye. So she killed herself in a bathtub at the clinic, and basically on the floor it says, "I'm sorry." Then you have the Pilgrimess, Isabella Smith, who came to North America as a colonist, and she was basically trying to find a new life, but the community that she lived in used her as a scapegoat for witch, like basically saying that she was
She was a witch.
She was a witch, and they killed her. So that's why she's kind of in the stockade, and she's got this old look to her.
Makes sense.
The Great Child and the Dire Mother are both together because the Great Child is the son of the Dire Mother, and they both lived at the circus.
I kind of got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get that impression just from the look of them that, that he was probably cast in the circus as like world's strongest man or world's largest baby, and that she was probably cast as, like a little person in some way, like they might have done in like the 1920s Barnum and Bailey.
Which is, their stories are actually kind of fucked up, though.
Oh, they're completely fucked. Yeah.
You find that the Dire Mother was raped. Sorry,
those two.
Sorry.
I thought you meant the stories of actual performers in the circus in the 1920s. Like, the stories are really fucked up.
The story on this one is actually fucked up between the two of them because I'm just a trigger warning on this one. I am going to talk about sexual assault. The Dire Mother was raped by the tall man in the circus, and she gave birth to the Great Child. And a lot of his mental handicap, because I guess he had some type of mental handicap, was due to her basically coddling him. But then I guess these carnies got together. I don't know if carny is the right word for it.
Yeah, I think that might be derogatory.
These
other carnival
the troop
workers.
The rest of the carnival workers got together and accidentally killed the Dire Mother. And then
accidentally?
Accidentally.
How do you accidentally kill? How do you get together to accidentally kill someone?
I don't actually know. It just says that's kind of what happened. Yeah, so she just ends up dying, and then fucking the Great Child goes wild and starts killing all the rest of the circus people.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So that's why you see.
I'm assuming somebody then puts him down because he's killing everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of cool how they do the artistic thing with it too, because he has a bib with like vomit on it from like her force feeding him.
Right.
And he also carries the axe from whenever he killed everyone. Now the Hammer was a blacksmith in the 1980s, but then he was falsely accused of stealing by somebody, and I guess he stood up to somebody in the town, and then they brutally killed his family. And so what he did is he tracked them down and beat them to death. But the townsfolk ended up actually taking retribution on the Hammer, and they tied him to a tree and then drove railroad spikes to his body.
To a tree. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. And so his left hand was actually cut off, and then the hammer was attached to it, which is why he has a hammer in one hand.
His left hand was cut off?
Yeah.
And he was tied to a tree?
Yeah.
Really?
What?
We're not going to talk about how this is completely reminiscent of Candyman.
Don't worry about it. Then we have the Jackal, who to me is one of the most terrifying ghosts. I don't know why. It's just so terrifying. And as she's describing the Jackal too, she does say the Jackal, the sign of Hell's Winter, which is, like I said, a really badass moniker.
That is pretty neat. So
he was born to a prostitute in the late 1800s, and then he developed an appetite for women that was very not good.
So he's kind of Jack the Ripper-esque.
Yeah, kind of. And I don't think he actually killed them, but he did perform some sexual assaults. He actually decided he didn't want to live this life, so he went into voluntary solitary confinement. Like, he really wanted to get better, but he just started getting more insane, so they wrapped him up in a straitjacket, and they just tied it tighter and tighter and tighter, contorting his limbs, and then eventually he died.
So wait, how's the thing wind up on his head?
That's something that they put on there because he gnawed through his straitjacket at one point.
Oh,
so they put a cage on his head to stop him from doing that.
Ooh, creepy.
Yeah, it's really cool how each of these ghosts has their own story. They put a lot of detail into this. And then we had the last ghost, the Juggernaut, Horace Breaker Mahoney. He was disfigured, and
sure, he's a fucking Irish guy. Fucking dicks.
So he was an outcast because he basically was disfigured and no one really wanted to be around him. But then his dad put him to work in the junkyard, and he had some massive amounts of strength. And after his dad died, he went insane and just started killing people. So after some of these murders, they finally They finally find him, and the SWAT team comes in and kills him. And what's really cool about the visual depiction of this is that there's bullet holes all over his body from whenever he died. So each of these ghosts has little bits from whenever they died, and it really ties to their backstory. I don't know who wrote the backstory here, but I think that's super fucking cool. So now that we've mentioned all the ghosts, Kalina does say, because now we're going back into the story, Kalina does say that there is a fail-safe to this device. Like, all of these ghosts basically have to be sacrificed to power this machine, but the way to turn off the machine is by a 13th ghost made entirely from love, like an act of pure love, who would sacrifice himself to basically stop the machine. She's telling Arthur, you're the 13th ghost, essentially, like, you're gonna have to kill yourself. And Dennis kind of sees that this is bullshit. He's like, no, there's got to be another way. There's no way that this would be.
I actually love this because he picks up the book and he's like, wait, hold on, there's got to be another way. He's like, wait a minute, I can't read Latin.
Yeah.
Why are you just now realizing that? You didn't realize that when you first looked at the book and goes, well, that's Latin. I don't know what it says.
The purpose of this machine, I should probably mention, is that it can see heaven and hell. It can see past and future. It's basically going to open up an eye to be able to see everything, so you have infinite knowledge. I don't know why you would really want that and why you would sacrifice all these people, but I guess if you're Cyrus, what'd you say?
Lotto numbers.
that is true.
That's why he wanted it. He was
That's
like,
true.
I just want to win the lottery a lot. That's it.
I would do that. Not really.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go through that much effort just to win the lotto.
I wouldn't fuck with the hammer or the jackal just to
just to hit the Powerball. No thanks.
Now Arthur does resign himself to killing himself. He's like, I'm gonna have to do it to save his kids. Not listening to Dennis's pleas. They agree to destroy the machine, and Dennis and Arthur remove a portion of the wall, which is super ingenious to me because they're like, hey, the ghosts can't get through these walls, so when they use it, they can use it as a shield, and they're really going to go hunt for the kids. Kalina and Maggie end up splitting up to go hunt for the source of the machine's power to, like, basically blow it up. In the basement, Arthur meet up with the Torn Prince, but the Torn Prince can't do anything. He's just beating on the glass, and they kind of pushing him up against a wall at one point, and I don't know what that was intended to do, because then they just take the glass and they kind of move off.
Well, don't they kind of smush him?
Yeah, they kind of smush him, but
he's a ghost. He's not going to die.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he just kind of goes somewhere else because that's what ghosts do.
That's what ghosts do. I've seen Casper. Kalina and Maggie find the source of... this is basically this giant series of gears and whirring things that kind of looks terrifying.
Whirring things.
I don't fucking know.
No, that's a great way to describe it because that's what it is. It's
fucking
just
crazy.
It's just a giant collection of gears and whirring things. That's actually really apt.
So they find the source of this, and then Maggie looks up and she sees a dead Cyrus, and then she's hit over the head with the book because the book is fucking giant and knocks Maggie right out. At the time, Kalina was wearing the glasses.
They think they both were, right?
Yeah, they were both wearing the glasses. Kalina takes the glasses off, showing that Cyrus is actually alive.
Fucking dick.
Kalina and him kiss. It's shown that they're in some type of relationship, I guess, which is very weird.
Yeah, and her character seems to completely do a 180 right here.
Oh, yeah.
Because the entire time, like you said, she's very much been the ghost PETA representative. Very headstrong, very self-reliant, self-sufficient, self-motivated, strong. And then as soon as we realize in this moment that she is in this relationship with Cyrus, all of a sudden she is completely subservient to him.
And she's meek and she's...
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very weird because you can tell that she's just been so brainwashed by him.
Oh, absolutely.
He angrily asks her for the spells to complete the ritual. I guess she just had them on some type of this like
an old reel. Yeah.
It's very odd.
Which, yeah, I always thought was odd because when was this book supposedly written?
I think it's like shit. I forget, but it was like way back in the day.
Well, I mean, because if it was written in a certain time in the 1800s, it's possible that they could have had a recording device. I don't know if it would have been a recording device that would have had a reel like that, but it's a stretch. And in the book, there's a cutout where the reel went, so it's almost as if that was there the entire time. And I don't know.
Or maybe there was some device that someone decoded and put the reel there to make it easy.
Possibly.
I don't know.
I don't know. You know, it could have been. You're right. It could have been added later. I'm not sure. I was a little. We're
going to suspend our disbelief here.
we're doing a lot of that in this film.
She does end up giving him the spells, and then it flashes to Dennis and Arthur, who unfortunately run into the hammer. Dennis takes a moment to, I guess, redeem himself and just a moment of self-sacrifice. He pushes Arthur behind the glass, knowing that there's only one person that can fit back there, because he kind of shoves him into a corner. He knows that this is going to be the end of him, because he did get a flash earlier of his own death, where the Juggernaut also teams up with the Hammer, and they just beat the shit out of Dennis and kind of break him, and it's very, very terrifying.
It is, but at the same time, it's also nice to see a couple of the ghosts working together.
Yeah, it's nice.
It for a moment there kind of became a buddy flick.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, you can
look at that. Like look at these two. These guys are just palling around, just having a good old time.
It's almost like that Marvel On Your Left, where it's like, oh, you're there for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a friend. Now it flashes back to Cyrus and Kalina, and they're talking about what it has to be done. And Cyrus tells her that, go ahead, put these kids in danger because we need Arthur to be the 13th ghost. Knowing now that the 13th ghost is not supposed to stop the machine, the 13th ghost is actually what fuels the machine.
It's the final piece.
That's the final piece to this. Like, he has to do this. And Kalina's only job was to basically put this idea in Arthur's head that he has to sacrifice himself to save his kids, because that's what's going to happen, and actually propel, I guess, the eye into being able to do what it does to get those lottery numbers.
I like how we just decided that's the whole purpose for this fucking machine is Cyrus just wants to win the lotto.
I mean, he did kind of squander the family fortune, remember?
He did, but I mean, based off of some of the dialogue of Arthur, of Cyrus, talking about greatness all the time, I have a feeling that his ambitions were much higher than money.
Oh yeah,
that his ambitions but I just think it's funny that we've just decided, because we have such disdain for this character, we're just going to make it that he made this whole thing for what he wanted.
Arthur is shown being distraught over Dennis's death, because he did like Dennis. It seems that he liked Dennis, and then he's also in despair because he can't save his kids. But then he briefly meets Jean's ghost before she gets called away by this spell that's being broadcast through the entire house, and he resolves himself to save his kids.
And see, it's right there. That's the problem I have with all this fucking, like, doors having to shift to do all this shit, is all they had to do was play the spell, and then all the ghosts get called.
Yeah, like instantly.
Yeah, and the walls and all this other shit no longer matter.
It has to be a configuration thing.
Right, so and you're absolutely right. It has to be, because the ghosts just immediately are pulled there. They can apparently now traverse these spells through the walls because the sound spell is more powerful or something.
It's a ghost movie. I mean, they don't always make sense.
It's like time travel. Sometimes you set up the rules, but then oftentimes they bend their own rules in order to make the plot fit. Yeah, I get it.
It's shown that Kalina and Cyrus are actually the ones broadcasting the spells, obviously. They go to finish the ritual, but not before Cyrus actually tricks Kalina into a trap. She says, he tells her that he needs the book. So she goes to go get the book, and he knows, I guess he's timed whenever this mechanism is going to basically trigger, where he's walked forward. She goes to get the book, comes back, but halfway through, there's a series of walls that just start closing, and it's kind of fucked up because you actually see her get smashed, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, you start seeing kind of like her face start to kind of bug out. Yeah, it's very smushy.
Yeah, it's really smushy.
A little smushed.
Arthur makes his way to the ritual chamber, and then he sees Cyrus's ghost. Now he's ready to kill himself by jumping into these spinning blades, where it has like his children are in the middle of these spinning blades that are just constantly looping over themselves.
It kind of looks like a gyroscope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he looks around and he realizes that there's 12 ghosts, because he's starting to remember what Kalina was saying about all the ghosts. And he's like, wait a second. If there's 12 ghosts, Cyrus would be the 13th. So he removes his glasses and he sees Cyrus. And he's incredibly pissed off to see that Cyrus is alive. He attacks Cyrus, but then Cyrus, I guess, just overpowers him. And Cyrus tells him that he's weak and that his only job is just to be the 13th ghost. So he goads Arthur into jumping into the middle. But then Maggie, who is in the basement, wakes up and she finds a way to interrupt the ritual. So these blades stop spinning as fast.
I like how you went over that. She finds a way to interrupt the ritual. By that you mean she starts just beating the fuck out of everything down there. That's how she finds a way to interrupt the ritual. It wasn't like she was like, I found the secret spell. No, she's just taking a wrench to every fucking mechanism in the room.
This interrupts the ritual because at this time it seems like the ghosts were kind of mesmerized, or
they were all kind of. It looked like they were in like having a seance. They were
all holding hands,
and looking up. It was really interesting.
But then because she interrupted the spell, the ghosts are free from their trance, and they pick Cyrus up and they just throw him into the fucking spinning wheel of death. Now, the ghost of Dennis actually shows up, and this is the only time you really see him needing his real glasses because he's cleaning them as he's talking to Arthur. And he's telling him that, you can actually save them, encouraging him, realizing that he doesn't have to be the 13th ghost, but he can save his family. Arthur walks to the middle, and these blades, because Maggie has, as Sean has told us, has fucked up the rotation. There's like this pause in between each of them.
Yeah. Like, like it's kind of gyroscope, pause, gyroscope, pause.
It's really cool how this visual effect works too. And so Arthur summons up his courage, jumps in the middle, saves his kids, and then I guess the house just starts to explode and the ghosts are free and the family's free. And I don't know if you got this as well, Sean, but it seemed like the ghosts were a little too happy as they were walking out.
They had a little pep in their step. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong. It's like they were going to a fair. They were just like,
they just kind of like, oh, look, this is all done now.
Now, all the ghosts leave aside from Jean, who tells her family that she loves them before fading away.
And this is what I was talking about here. In this moment, Jean no longer has her burn scars. The ghost rules of unfinished business. Because it's like, because we've seen this in other films. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, but I honestly can't. Actually, I think we see it in Supernatural a lot, where the TV show, where a ghost will have certain scars reminiscent of their death, and then as they're being freed or they're finally able to let go of their earthly bounds, those scars dissipate just before they are, swept away up into what we perceive to be heaven.
Yes, the heart of Te Fiti from Moana. I get you.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going for.
Now, as I said, the family's embracing, and then we see Maggie, she was in the basement when this fucking machine exploded, so there's no reason that she should be alive, but she's alive, and she goes the fuck off.
She's a little upset, yes.
I'm sorry, family, Kathy, Bobby, Uncle, Ghost. I am sick of this nanny shit. I've had it. This was not in the job description. I quit!
That's pretty much the end of the movie.
So I have two things to say.
Okay.
About our ending here. One, there was no fucking reason for Tony Shalhoub to try to jump that thing.
No.
There's none. Like, you see debris around, so you could maybe make the argument that had he not been inside, been at the center with his kids, in the middle of this, deadly gyroscope thing, that maybe debris may have fell on him and he could have been killed. But I honestly still think that's a stretch. There was no reason for him to jump. If he had just stayed put, and waited, everything would have been fine. But he felt like he had to jump in there and be in the middle with these kids. And at the time, assuming they were all going to die anyway, so what the fuck was the point?
There was
just to be with them in their final moments.
Just to be with them.
I mean, I guess that's whatever. But let's be honest about how this film ended. Who really saved the day here, AJ? Maggie, and the ghosts. They are the true heroes.
Yes, that's true. Dennis didn't even really save anything as a ghost. He's just like, just go jump over there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Dennis, go be with your kids. Dennis is the one telling, basically saying, hey, risk your own fucking life to be in the center of that thing.
But you really don't need to.
But no, the 12 ghosts, we'll say, not the 13th. The 12 ghosts are the ones who obliterate Cyrus, the villain of the story. And Maggie is the one who fucking fucks everything up, so they have the ability to do that, and that this house will come crashing down, and that the spell won't complete. Maggie's our hero.
It's actually kind of funny to me, and I found this out later, that you can find out that Kalina's about to turn on the family. Not early on, it's kind of at the end, whenever they're getting ready for that final battle.
Okay.
There's a little indication that she's actually working for Cyrus, because when she's packing everything together, there's two sets of spells that she had, containment spells and drawing spells. She only packs the drawing spells.
Interesting. Okay.
Why would she need the drawing spells? Why wouldn't she want to pack the containment spells to keep them contained?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Interesting.
Yeah. But that's 13 Ghosts, guys. To me, and a lot of people will probably think this is an awful film, but I love this movie. I also love Ghost Ship, I would say the companion piece to this movie.
The companion piece. Well, it's like you said in the very beginning. The appeal of this movie, it's not... I mean, obviously, if you love horror, there's some pretty decent action sequences in there. There's some cool gore stuff that's done, some cool special effects. But the real appeal is the lore.
Oh, yeah.
This idea of a machine. And I love the line. And you said it earlier, it's such a neat line. A machine built by the devil and powered by the damned. That's such a neat fucking, piece of dialogue. That's what makes this film compelling. It's what makes you want to, continue to watch, because it's like, wow, this madman built a machine that you literally have to have ghosts to power, and not just any ghosts, like really
Specific ghosts.
Specific ghosts with specific backstories that will give you ultimate power. Like that's just neat. It's just that kind of lore is so kind of cool, especially when, we take it from take it out of the realm of the Greek mythos of like, oh yeah, there's this mountain and all the gods are hanging out up there, which we all know is, probably not true. I'm only saying probably in case there's any, people that still believe in Greek mythology. But for the most part, I think we've all kind of assumed that, there are no, gods hanging out on Mount Olympus. But when we take that out of the realm of just, tales that have been told to us time and time again of ancient stories, and instead this idea of, hey, not too long ago, this crazy guy, Basilius, right?
Yeah.
I love that Cillian's in his name. Basilius has communed with the devil and created an entire book that will help you literally see the future through a mechanism built by the devil. I mean, that's just so fucking cool.
What I would want to read, which I would find incredibly interesting, is that the backstories that I gave you are only for the ghosts themselves that they captured, but the titles of the ghosts only they fit a specific description. I want to know what that description was. What is the prerequisite that you need for each of these?
Oh, like what?
Like what has
I see what
to
you mean,
happen?
because obviously you have the Angry Princess, and what we did with the Angry Princess was we found a woman who had plastic surgeries, and she was angry that one of her plastic surgeries went wrong and killed herself. But what is the litmus? Like, is that all it needs to be? Just a woman who was angry and killed herself, or, her death was because of her anger? Or is there, a certain set of standards that have to be met to be able to say this person satisfies the prerequisites for an Angry Princess? Yeah, you're right. That would be cool to find out.
And think about all the stuff that they had to go into. The great mother, the great child and the dire mother. Those are very specific. They
Incredibly
have to be
specific.
together.
Yeah, very specific.
I don't know. I really want to see if anyone's ever transcribed that, because I would love to read that in addition to all the lore that happens. Like I said, this movie is not the greatest movie that's ever been made, but to me, it is a really intricate movie whenever you start thinking about it and everything that went into it. Yes, Roger Ebert did not like it. I do like it, though. I will give it two toast way up.
2 toasts way up.
And I think this is the first ghost movie we've done, hasn't it been?
I'm trying to think. Let's see here. We did Saw, which is nothing. There's no monsters or anything. What other spooky films have we done?
We did Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Right, which is more monster. I don't think we've done ghosts. This is the
first ghost one.
Well, congratulations, AJ, on our
Yeah,
first ghost
yeah.
one. Hey, so AJ, who's Sam Elliott playing in this movie?
Just because I think it would be beyond entertaining, I never go serious with mine. I'm going to say the Angry Princess.
Who's imagining all the things you could possibly say? And that's definitely not where I thought you were going. You know what? No, I'm not even going to put out an idea. That's it. Sam, you're playing Angry Princess. Get
your shit together.
Get your shit together. Get into makeup. We got to put some. We got to throw some fake memories on you. AJ, where can we watch 13 Ghosts?
So it is actually going to be leaving Max soon. I found that out because it was just on the leaving soon.
Oh, does one of those little banners that say leaving soon?
Yeah, and it sucks though because I really do like the movie. You can watch that, and I think it might actually be gone off of Max now. But you can watch it on Philo, which I've never actually used Philo, so I don't know.
So Philo is a cable, kind of like a cable service type thing, like the streaming cable services. You can do like YouTube TV and Hulu Live TV. That's what Philo is. It's one of those.
But you can rent it. Actually, I would say probably you could buy this somewhere pretty cheap, but you can rent it on YouTube, Google Movies, Redbox, Vudu, and Amazon Prime for all $3.99. But you probably, if you want to go to like an estate sale or something like that, you could probably find it for like $1, I swear.
I mean, if you can find it. I don't know. I hit a lot of estate sales. That's kind of me and my wife's thing to do on Saturdays. We like to go to the estate sales and just kind of pick around, and it also gives you a chance just to see like houses. Like if you're not house shopping, it's kind of fun. All of a sudden this turned into a podcast for selling estate sales. But I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever seen a copy of 13 Ghosts. You mostly in those estate sales see exactly what you would expect. The films that are kind of more popular, recurring, you see a lot of Disney VHS. I'll say that, like a lot, an inordinate amount of Disney VHS at estate sales.
It does look like that you can buy the movie on Amazon, the actual DVD, for $9.99 as well if you want to own it.
Well, that's not bad. Well, our music is created by Augusto Denise, logo by Design World, social media by the future Mrs. AJ, mixing and editing by IPTT Studios, and special thanks to studio dog Joe the Boxer.
And we want to hear from you in your own slice of toast. Tell us about the films that you think we and others should see, actors to showcase, or topics to discuss. You can reach us on Instagram at IPTT_podcast, email us directly at ipttpodcast@gmail.com, or interact with us directly through the Spotify app, and future social media to be included later.
And if you ever find yourself in a demonic machine powered by the damned with only Tony Shalhoub and 2000's Matthew Lillard to save you, remember,
you can always get 13 toasts.
13 Thanks for listening.
Arthur, I used to hunt ghosts with your Uncle Cyrus.
Goats?
Ghosts! Ghosts, goddammit, listen to me!